Hello everyone, I am Sashank, a final year computer science undergraduate student from College of Engineering, Indy, Anna University. I am presenting our paper on instant tracking based approach for interior decor planning with markerless AR. So this is the walkthrough of our presentation for the next 20 minutes or so. It deals with our intro for the project. I would also be talking about the design of our proposed model and how it is unique with respect to pre-existing solutions. Then the results of our project would be discussed. Let's move on to the introduction of the project. In the introduction, I will be dealing with the scope of augmented reality, types of augmented reality, and why augmented reality is useful in interior design. What is augmented reality? So basically, augmented reality involves bringing a computer generated model into a user environment. For example, if we want an object to appear within the scope of our camera, we can place that object in the user environment, and through our camera it wouldn't be actually present in the surroundings, but we would assume that it is present through as we are viewing it through our camera. All of you must have played the video game Pokemon Go at some point of time, or at least heard of it. This used one of the new and upcoming technologies, which is known as location based AR. We will be dealing with it later on in our introduction, but that is an example for augmented reality. So these virtually generated objects coexist and interact with other objects which are present actually in the physical environment. We can move around the computer generated objects, resize it, place it wherever we want, and so on. So what is the impact of augmented reality? These are some stats on augmented reality which I have got from the site Statista. The global augmented and virtual reality market size in 2020 is assumed to be 18.8 billion US dollars. The share of global AR VR spending on consumer market is at 37.4%, with the market for AR technology growing for projections at 2023 valuing over 18 billion US dollars. So from these numbers we can see that if you are an investor, AR industry seems to be a lucrative deal. But how do we reach the customers when we come with building products for AR? Well, that's among the businessmen to figure it out. So why would a customer want to use an augmented reality project? What is the whole point of building a solution in augmented reality? So buying physical products all the time is not viable. We sometimes don't have the need, or sometimes we don't have the money to spend on an expensive product to try it out and then return it. So we don't know whether the product will suit our style, our need, and most importantly, our environment, whether it can be placed in our home and look good enough. So I'm pretty sure all of us would have made the mistake of buying that oversized table or the carpet that doesn't suit our decor. I myself made the mistake of buying a laptop cover for my laptop, which was around a quarter of an inch bigger than the laptop screen itself. Well, we can't always trust Amazon, can we? So that's when augmented reality comes into play. We can get a look and feel of the virtual product before buying the actual physical one. And then another point is designing a product. Sometimes customers will like to customize their product according to their needs. But how this customization, actually seems within our environment could be observed with the help of AR. A customer could, for example, buy a table and change the color of the table from rosewood to brown and see how it looks within his environment. So this is where AR comes into play. And then AR can help the customer to build whatever product they want to. So it would result in a composite view with a combination of virtual model and a physical environment. So users can experience the virtual model in their own physical environment. So then what are the types of augmented reality? There are two major types of augmented reality. One is triggered AR and another is view-based AR. So triggered AR involves a trigger causing the object to be rendered on the screen. So these could involve a marker. Marker-based AR is one of the most common types of augmented realities present. So here a 3D model is rendered on a predefined marker. This marker is an object which is encoded as a digital representation within the application. The application can then scan any object in the environment, and if the digital representation of any other object matches the pre-built model, then the 3D object would be rendered upon the screen. Location-based AR, when we walk to a location based on the GPS, a model would be rendered. For most common example is Google Maps. Google has recently developed an application which involves an animal actually pointing to the direction of the location. And then would come dynamic augmentation. Here, the property of the model being deployed changes according to the view. This is most important in a furniture application. For example, if you want to place an application in your home and walk around the application, with each view, the application should be rendered differently. There should be different views of the model which is being rendered. For example, if you see the model by standing in front of it, its color could change. If you walk around, its texture could change, and so on. The real-time example for this is IKEA, who has developed an IKEA Place application, which would help you to place your furniture in your home and experience it. Next is complex augmentation. This involves pairing real-world objects with dynamic data. So this can be a good example is Google Glass. For example, if you're walking towards a building or a location, you would want information about that location to be displayed. For example, if you're walking towards a restaurant, how cool would it be to get the ratings of the restaurant being displayed in your Google Glass? So that is the example of a complex augmentation. Next would be view-based AR. So view-based AR is slightly uncommon compared to triggered AR. This involves indirect augmentation. So indirect augmentation augments a static view of the world. So for example, if you want to change the color of your wall, you would augment a static wallpaper onto the wall. So this acts as an image. Next would come as non-specific digital augmentation. These are augmentation with no regards to to the camera view. For example, if you're going to play a AR game, the game objects would be rendered regardless of the field of view. It doesn't bother about where you're playing the game, rather than just the models being deployed. For example, this is Pokemon Go. As I said, the Pokemon models keep appearing anywhere on the road. It doesn't matter whether you're on the path or on the road, the model keeps appearing. So this is an example of non-specific digital augmentation. Next will come, the next slide deals with augmented reality in interior design and decoration. Why do we even need augmented reality in interior design? So for example, one is for floor planning. If you have a plan of a floor, and augmented reality would help you visualize how the plan would turn out in case you develop the building. Another is furniture placing. You will want to place furniture at different parts of your home and see how the furniture would look like. This is the motivation for our project. And next is educating architecture students. This would involve architecture students gaining a better idea about the plans they develop by using augmented reality. Next is applying augmented reality in interior design. So why would you need augmented reality in interior design? So this would involve simulating the interiors to get an idea about the purchase the customers would be making with respect to dimensions and color of the actual product. Another point is it would help us eliminate any mistakes regarding the purchase, and it would help save time and money for the customers. AR also helps customers make better choices while purchasing products, as they can appreciate the look and feel of the product before they actually buy it. So this serves as enough reasons as to why an app such as the one we have developed actually would help a customer in real world scenarios. So there are two types. There are basically many types of AR, but the two main types are markered AR and markerless AR. So how do these two differ in interior design? So markered AR is basically recognition of an object based on the marker. So the application would place a model on top of a corresponding marker. A markerless AR, on the other hand, would recognize the environment and render the object based on feature points present in the environment. But in case we are using markered AR, a customer would have to purchase an external marker for you deploying it in this house. This would result in more time and money spent by the customer on using the application. This would probably make the customer lose interest in using the application even. So to increase customer usability, markerless AR is the way to go while designing interiors. So this section would deal with the methodology we have used in our application, including what algorithms we have used and why we have chosen those algorithms compared to already existing ones. So this is the basic design of the system. The system would involve a UI where the user can select a model and change the model's scene. Once he has selected the model, the tracking should begin. So this involves detecting the ground plane where the user should track the object, and then once the tracking starts, there should be an update of tracking as the object's position changes. Next would involve rendering the 3D object onto the screen itself, and then the model can be manipulated by the user. This involves manipulation of position, orientation, as well as scale. So all this would be displayed on the video output of our camera. So the platform used for building our application is Unity. Unity is a one-stop platform for all Android, iOS, as well as web-based development. So our application, once built on Unity, can be ported onto any platform. So we have developed an application for Android, but the application could be built for iOS as well as web-based environment. We have used MaxST SDK to build the application. So MaxST performs instant tracking. So instant tracking is based on visual inertial odometry. How is this different from other SDKs which is available? This is because other SDKs uses SLAM, which is simultaneous localization and mapping as seen on the slide. So visual inertial odometry versus SLAM. Why do we prefer VIO? VIO involves estimating the position in 3D space by finding out the distance between the ground plane as well as your camera. This distance could be increased as you move away and towards the ground plane. So this helps to get local consistency and increases the field of tracking as you move away and towards the marker. Not the marker per se, I'm sorry, towards the ground plane. And then SLAM. SLAM involves the camera being localized in an unknown environment. So this involves feature points being plotted within the environment and the model being deployed on these feature points. These feature points can include, distance as well as not the distance between the camera and the ground plane, but it would indicate distance of points of uniqueness within the ground plane. So for example, if you are using a carpet, the carpet would have different textures and designs on it. So each of this would be considered as a feature point for SLAM, and within this the object would be deployed. So once you move away from the field of view, the model would lose tracking. Whereas in VIO, the model keeps getting tracked despite the user moving away from the field of view. So SLAM helps to achieve global consistency, whereas VIO achieves local consistency. So this involves, as I said before, the object being rendered despite the user moving away. So first we would involve modeling the 3D models. So the modeling would involve three types of basic modeling are present in game design. Basically, there are primitive or box modeling, curve modeling, and digital sculpting. So what is primitive or box modeling? This is the modeling which normally we would use for symmetrical shapes such as furniture. So this would involve a base shape which is taken, and those shapes are bridged together with the help of intermediate shapes, and then the edges are smoothed to create a realistic appearance and textures are added. This is how our models are being generated. We don't generate the models in our application, we imported the models present in Unity. So the bottom part of our slide shows the algorithm which we are using. Once the model is being selected on the select scene screen, the model is being assigned a name and it is set active. This means the model can be rendered in the field of view. Then the model is set as the child object of the instant trackable object. This instant trackable object is the one which would be tracked by the MaxST SDK. So this is the object that should be rendered on the tracker plane. This is what is meant by instant trackable object. Once the instant trackable object is assigned, we set the position to be origin of the trackable object. Next is tracking. So what do you mean by tracking? So tracking involves finding a plane and establishing the position of our model with respect to that plane. So first you would try to set up a coordinate system on ground. Next we detect feature points. And these are points such as you can see, points, lines, circles, etc. These feature points, based on VIO algorithm, the depth of the positioning is determined from the relation with the camera. And then as the future frames are being mapped, we detect the features on the frames, and then we match whether the features are present or not. If the features are matched, the object is deployed. You can see the algorithm for this. First, the ground plane is detected using the tracker manager object. Next, the AR camera is detected, and then the features are mapped. After that, the tracker object is rendered on the mapped features. Next, updating the tracker. Updating the tracker involves matching the features even if the tracker shifts positions. So this is done by getting the world coordinates from the screen coordinates of the ground plane, and then calculating the distance between the camera and the ground plane. This distance calculation helps us to render our object clearly. Once the tracker is updated, we can render our object. So rendering the object involves calculating the image samples and performing options such as stenciling, blending, etc. So what is stenciling and blending? Blending would involve operations such as texture mapping, image blurring or sharpening, and then bump mapping. Once these operations are carried out, we get a high rendered model which can be rendered using accumulation buffers. For our object, we create both a renderer and a collider. Renderer is used to display the object, and collider is used to handle touch events. Model manipulation. Model manipulations involve changing the position, rotation, as well as scale of the object. And now we can see a small demo of our application. We have a system interaction diagram on the right hand side to show how our on the left hand side to show how our output on the right hand side maps to it. So the user first selects the model which he wants to display, and then once the model is selected, he starts tracking and the model instance is created. He can adjust the position of the model, and as you can see now, the user went away from the screen of view and the model is still being rendered. Once stop tracking is clicked, the model is stopped tracking, and the user can select another model and start tracking it. He can adjust the position, the angle, as well as the scale of the object. So these are the basic manipulations being carried out. And then you can see the start tracking screen. The ground plane is being detected, and then the object is being deployed on the ground plane, being rendered on the ground plane. You can see different types of objects being rendered. Analysis. Based on VIO, the object position would be relative despite change in distance. As you can see, at 5 meters, 10 meters, and 15 meters, the object's position seems stationary, but the user keeps moving away. This is because the points which are being mapped, the distance between the user and the camera, user's camera and the feature points are being mapped, and this distance is always kept at a relational position. This is due to odometry sensors, which are inertial sensors which are present on our phone. This table shows the time taken to deploy each model. As you can see, the models which are slightly heavier in weight based on the features are takes more time to get deployed. But basically, the time to deploy is for 0.43 seconds, which is very low and user friendly. So conclusion, so our developed application helps increased ease of use of visual inertial odometry, which helps in mapping, and then instant tracking, independent of external hardware and highly accessible to customers. Our future works involves dynamic model updates where the user can add any model that he wants. Q&A session. Do you believe AR will have ubiquitous applicability with respect to mobile phones and fixed screens? Any AR application is built with accessibility and ease of use in mind. New digital eyewear may have the added benefit of introducing mixed reality, but not everyone would have accessibility to hardware. Therefore, current mobile phones can result in AR applications reaching a wide range of customers. Can you provide some examples of real-world utilization of the proposed solution? IKEA's Place app is one of the most common and most used applications across Europe. There are other applications on Play Store and iOS Store as well. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed the presentation.